a bagel. I want to.
Good morning.
Oh, look, I have stuff all over my hand.
Stigmata.
Where did that come from?
Stigmata.
It's not coming off. No, it's not stigmata. It's blue.
Royal
Stigmata.
You're royal. You're royal.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So what are we doing? Who did their homework? Who didn't do their homework?
We had no homework.
Oh. Well, I got nothing. I got nothing.
All right. Well, good night. And so long.
Well, I guess I actually did have a hit to do a lesson. So I thought we should probably start doing, now that you guys are sort of all coming along a bit, we should probably start doing some stuff with the workbook.
Right on.
But yeah, I got lesson 26. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability.
Sweet. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Every day.
Oh man. It's hard to find sometimes hard to find these things in your head, but anyway. So put it down. Uh, 31. I just got told lesson 31. I'm not the victim of the world I see. Cool lesson. So today's idea is the introduction to your declaration of release. Again, the idea should be applied to both the world you see without and the world you see within. In applying the idea, we will use a form of practice which will be used more and more with changes as indicated. Generally speaking, the form includes two aspects, one in which you apply the idea on a more sustained basis, and the other consisting of frequent applications of the idea throughout the day. 2 longer periods of practice with the idea for today are needed, one in the morning and one at night. 3 to 5 minutes for each of them is recommended. During that time, look about you slowly while repeating the idea 2 or 3 times. Then close your eyes and apply the same idea to your inner world. You will escape from both together, for the inner is the cause of the outer. As you survey your inner world, merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any thought of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on anyone in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly without any special investment on your part. As you sit quietly, watch your thoughts. As you sit and quietly watch your thoughts, repeat today's idea to yourself. I'm not the victim of the world I see, as often as you care to, but with no sense of hurry. In addition, repeat the idea for today as often as possible during the day. Remind yourself that you are making a declaration of independence in the name of your own freedom, and in your freedom lies the freedom of the world. The idea for today is also a particularly useful one to use as a response to any form of temptation, which is basically any reaction. It is a declaration that you will not yield to it and put yourself in bondage. So I like this idea. I like all the ideas, actually. They're all pretty good. Jesus knows what he's talking about. The idea of surveying your inner world. I was looking at that idea the other day. I think I put a post out on my Facebook page about it, where I think it's lesson 16 or something, where he says, try to imagine your thoughts as an oddly assorted procession going by, right? And the same as that lesson, just identify each one if it distracts you, and then let it go. And then if another one comes, identify it, let it go, identify it, and let it go. So you're training your mind to stay in the constancy of letting go, right? But you're also identifying or owning that thought. And the thing that the course does is collapses time, right? So you could be here, let's say, and we've had 130 billion years since the Big Bang, and modern science probably says that there's been human or conscious humans on the planet for 80,000 or 120,000 years out of all of that. And there could be just as long to go, another 130 billion years to go. So do you really want to keep coming back here?
No.
But what we're doing is snipping out, right? Snipping out the ideas that keep us tethered here in that oddly assorted procession. So when you first start the course, it's easy to do it with the thoughts you don't want, because they're the loudest and they're the most annoying and the most upsetting and troubling, right? You sit there and you watch those procession going past, and some of those thoughts, especially if you're already in an emotional state, some of those thoughts are going to be like right in your face and you're not going to want to look at them, right? Some of them are so horrible, you just try to push it aside and pretend it never happened, which it obviously never actually did happen in reality, but that's not where we find ourselves. We find ourselves dealing with it verbatim. So when you snip that out, right, and I'm talking about forgiveness, what happens is, if you imagine that procession is like a train with carriages, it goes around and around and around in your mind, okay? Now, it's really only one train with a lot of carriages, but you can focus on one particular sequence of carriages, right? The different effects of things, and they go round and round quicker, right? Some days you can just go for days dwelling on the same problems and the same scenarios and things like that, which is, everybody does that. Everyone has these particular packages of energy, this particular emotional baggage. So what happens is, when you identify it, right, when you're willing to identify it and go, okay, these thoughts about whatever it is, and you do the work, I'm willing to forgive this, heal my mind of the belief in separation, which this represents, right? It doesn't matter what the thought is about. The fact that it's a temporal thought is enough, right? Whether it's a happy thought or a sad thought, it doesn't matter. It's another carriage on that train. But what happens is, let's say we did one, somebody stole some money or something like that, right? And you know who it is, and you got a grievance going, and it's like, I've got to see this person and figure out how to get my money back. And you got a whole story, and before you know it, there's like, you've been dwelling on it for days, right? It just builds and builds. I'll ring them, or I'll find out where they live, and all this shit, right? It just goes on and on and on. And what happens is, when you identify it and when you're willing to let it go, that carriage gets snipped out of the train, right? And the track or the loop gets shorter, right? So that carriage, somebody stole something, whatever, that carriage there, it's similar to, oh, I once stole something, right? Or somebody else I know stole something or something. All the stories about stealing something and how you felt that carry that same emotional signature, right? It's like dominoes. They all kind of get tidied up, right? Because the Holy Spirit, it's not the words that you're asking or the actual specifics of the thought. it's the quality or the weight of the emotional vibration. I don't know how to really talk about it, but it's the vibrational association that you have with it that you're actually asking for healing with, right? The story is just what you project onto it, right? Because everything's just energy, everything's just light. So somebody does something and I suddenly think that I'm a victim or somebody else something, you know, or whatever. And before you know it, a whole story goes on. Because all thoughts have power, those thoughts have emotions, right? Those emotions are what it is you're responding to. Okay, what triggers you? Because you've decided in your mind already, I like emotions that are happy emotions, and I don't like the emotions that are fearful and upsetting and whatever. Unless you're a bit of a tripper and you do like the ones that are upsetting, you know, like people that get off on that shit. But whatever it is, right? So you're looking at your thinking, and it's like, this thinking brings me no peace of mind. Okay, this particular way of thinking about this situation brings me no peace of mind, and it carries a signature which is spelled F-E-A-R, right? It's a fearful signature. When you're thinking with fear, everything else comes from that, right? You have fear and love. Everything comes from fear. You got anger, hatred, jealousy, pettiness, all of those sorts of things, right? But each of those characteristics of fear that you've pigeonholed into different things in life, this fear is not too bad because it's practical. I don't want to put my hand on the hot plate, you know, because I'll burn my hand. Or this fear that somebody might crash into me if they're drunk on the highway or whatever. That's worse, right? But they all come from fear. It doesn't matter, even the little sigh of discontent. So you want to be dealing with all of these things. But when you get to a certain point, you've gone through so much fearful thinking, right? That all that really starts to be left on that train going around and around is your happy thoughts, right? Now, Jesus says, give me your happy thoughts as well, and I'll guard them for you. I'll look after them. And the ones that are not completely happy, I'll purify them. I'll fiddle around and I'll get them sorted so that they're happy. You know, they're just slight misperceptions on your part, right? And there's plenty of times when you have a situation that you thought was a certain way and realize later, oh, it wasn't like that at all. And you have a little laugh and it's all good again. You know, it's not really a grievance. It's more of a misunderstanding or just a confusion in the mind, because you don't know the meaning of life. You don't know what the hell anything is, right? So that gets snipped out. And then that thing comes around again and it gets faster and faster and faster. The more that the carriages get snipped out, the loop gets shorter, right? The time it takes in your cycle for that to come all the way around again and present that lesson again gets shorter. So instead of it taking like 3 years for this whole thing to come around and then, man, the same shit happened to me 3 years ago or 5 years ago, now it's happening every 6 months or whatever. You're feeling the same emotional signature, right? May not be the same situation, but it'll carry the same signature and you'll recognize it, right? But every time you snip out a carriage, the signature's the same, but the weight of it is less. Does that make sense? Like you feel it less. It's still there, but it doesn't irk you as much. It doesn't bother you as much. It's like your rats, right? Same thing. You had a moment with the rats. All of a sudden that got taken care of. Now there's no rats. But if you saw the rats again, there wouldn't be so much of a reaction because it's like, oh, that's the rats. I've dealt with it in my mind, right? It would carry less emotional signature. It's like when a kid does anything, you go on the Ferris wheel or the rides and stuff, and the first time's terrifying. The second time you're still a little bit thing, and then the third time you're probably like, yeah, I want to go again. I want to go again. You drop the fear, right? So when you have that procession of thoughts going past, your ego is going to want to try and present you with the ones that you're validating, okay, which is the law of attraction. Okay, so if you're operating from a thought system or a thought perspective of being fearful, your mind goes, aha, I see that you want fearful thoughts. Here's some good ones, right? But if you're in if you're in a happy mood and whatever, your mind goes, aha, because your mind serves you, right? That's its purpose. The purpose of your mind is to serve you. It gives you what you want, right? But because the mind is split, you have yin and yang, right? Fear and love. You think that, and I'm talking love on your own terms, not unconditional love, right? You have these ideas of fear and love. You try to gravitate towards the ones that you think are loving and avoid the ones that are fearful. So you project the fearful ones out into the world, onto other people's situations and things without knowing you're doing that, right? And try to stay in the zone where the loving ones are. And you're always kind of presenting this false face of yourself. You know, aren't I a nice person? What's that thing everybody does these days? It's mindfulness. What the hell is even that? You know, mindfulness. Positive thinking. It's like, what a load of shit. It's a crock. Let's all be positive thinkers and just pretend that none of that negative thinking actually exists. We'll just be mindful it's like, it doesn't work that way, because down there in the basement is all that dark shit. You got to deal with it at some point. So you project it out there, and of course you come across it. And then you get doubly frustrated because you're trying to be mindful and trying to be nice, and yet you still have shitty stuff happening in your life. How come this shit happens to me? I'm trying to be good. It's like, because you're projecting out the bad stuff, not forgiving it. You know? So Jesus comes along and says, you don't want the good or the bad, the yin or the yang. Get rid of all of it. Just wipe the slate clean and start again. Right? I'll help you do that. Because even one of those thoughts on that train going around and around and around in there denies you perfect inner peace. And that's the goal of our course. Right? Now, you'll have moments in your mind training where you'll be totally peaceful for a while and be like, oh, my mind is quiet, everything's good. And then the next thing you know, boom, the rug gets pulled out from under your feet. Something else happens. And you seem like you're back to square one. Right? You get sick, or you lose your job, or anything can happen. And it seems like you got to start all over again. Right? Another train comes along with a load of thoughts about what it is that's going on. So it's just like, I used to think of it like sweeping a pyramid. You know, the pyramid sort of like goes up in steps like that, and you start at the bottom and you got your little broom and you have to go all the way around your life, which is what the first step represents. And you sweep off all the sand from the desert, right? Exactly. And then you climb up the next one and you sweep it all off the edge until you get to the very top, right? And then when you get to the top, you look down and you got sand on all the other steps. So you got to go down and do it properly, right? It's like, that's how this is. It's exactly how this is. I know. You can't start at the top. You can't start at the top. You got to start at the bottom. You forgive, forgive, forgive. You go all the way around the pyramid, forgiving, forgiving, forgiving. Then you climb up to the next level, like Jacob's ladder, and then you forgive, 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 forgive. And eventually the cycle, as you go up, the cycle gets shorter, right? And you get to the top, and you get a moment's rest up there, and you can enjoy the view for a minute. And then you got to start going back down again. All right. It's like all the time that you're climbing to the top, you're telling yourself there's no one out there. There's no one out there. There's no one else cleaning my pyramid. I'm the one cleaning the pyramid. Right. I'm the cleaner, finger on the nose. And then you go down, down, down again. And you get to the bottom and everybody's down there and they're like, where did you go? And it's like, well, I just cleaned my pyramid and I ended up in eternity. And now I'm back down here again to teach you guys, you know, someone else has got to clean it now, you know, like, exactly, up you go. It's like that Donovan song. First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. Right? But when you come back down again, you do so with the knowledge that there is no pyramid whatsoever. Right? You become on the pyramid, but not of the pyramid or something. In the world, but not of it. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but but it's the same thing as those thoughts. So what happens is when you slow those thoughts down, or when you eventually get rid of one of those train of thought, there's a space there that those thoughts used to occupy in your mind. Okay. Now, Jesus says in the Course, clear a space for the Holy Spirit. When you first start, clear a space for the Holy Spirit, invite the Holy Spirit in. And I imagined in my mind was so busy when I first picked this book up, it felt like a big warehouse full of boxes, and there was no room for not even one more box. It was just like yak, 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 yak. That's how my mind felt. And I had to envision in here creative thinking that I was going into my warehouse and taking out just one box, throwing it away and making a little space, and I invited the Holy Spirit to sit in there. I didn't have an imagination for the Holy Spirit. I figured it could probably either be really small or really big. It didn't, you know, it was just an idea. And then lesson 12, of course, when I think I've told you guys when I did lesson 12 and I woke up the next morning and did lesson 13, there was nothing. It was perfectly silent. There was no boxes, and I felt like a tiny white bird in a vast blue sky, flying around in my mind. It was peaceful and everything. And then 3 days later, it was back to chit chat, noisy again. But it showed me what was possible. You know? So I just kept on going, kept doing those lessons. And that lesson, 31 or whatever we just read, I lost it now. I'm not the victim of the world I see. It's like, they're all powerful lessons. It's like that one in particular is really, really good. I'm not the victim of the world I see, because the tendency is to always want to be the victim. Right? And no one's a victim by circumstance. It's a victim by choice, because I'm choosing the thought system that I want any given tick of the clock, which is why I need mind training. You know, it's like the most important thing for you now is mind training. It's like, hang on a minute. I'm either going to trust Jesus and take on board what he says and do this mind training, or I'm just going to fight my way through the chaos that seems to be going on and hope that I get a result. You know, but you've got to understand the goal. It's like, all right, well, the goal of the course is inner peace. Is that what I want? The goal of the course is inner peace. Not a little bit, not sometimes, but perfect inner peace. And you got to keep working at it. Like the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. You know, I had a guy today that was telling me, oh, I've been struggling with the mind training and struggling doing the lessons and this and that and the other. And I told him about how I used to get a big pen and write the lesson heading on my arm every day so I wouldn't forget to do it. And that's when things started to change a bit. You know, I started to get a better result and put more integrity into doing those lessons. And it kind of like blew him out of the water that somebody would do that. But you get to see, you get to see how little intention that you put into it, you know, how little, you know, it's like some people I know get those little yellow sticky notes and they put them all over their house for the day. They'll carry a little pad of them and they'll write their lesson, put one on the fridge, one in the toilet, one on the thing for the day, because they've realized in here that their thinking is always against them. Right? Jesus says your ego is always against you. Time is always against you. You've got to activate yourself in this. It's like if you were studying in college to be a doctor and you had a class of 25 or 30 students, there are probably 10 that are going to graduate as doctors and the rest are going to end up working at Mickey D's, you know. But the 10 that graduate as students, as doctors, they're the ones that put full effort into it. They gave it everything. right? Just because you don't get a qualification at the end of this course doesn't mean that you don't have to give it everything. You still have to give it your whole heart and your whole soul, like the whole thing, whatever that is to you. I can tell you that if you're sitting here on this Zoom meeting, it's not enough. Or you wouldn't be sitting here on the Zoom meeting. You'd be like doing your lesson right now. Right, exactly. So anyway, mind training, that's the whole point of it. And you get to a point.
It's right there.
See, you're doing your lesson, you're not listening to me.
Exactly.
That's probably what you're doing.
Exactly. I'm doing both, covering all my bases.
You're a woman, you can do that. Guys can only do one thing at a time, apparently. So what happens then when your mind training, when it kicks in and you go through the shifts, go through doing those lessons and you have those conscious shifts, you snip out those cycles, right? And your overall thing, it gets snipped out in every incarnation. So let's say you have a crappy relationship in this one that ends badly, or there's jealousy in it, or there's whatever it is, right? You heal that in your mind in this incarnation, in this lifetime, it automatically gets snipped out of every one because it's not in this lifetime, it's in your thinking. Okay, so next time you come back, your life is just automatically more peaceful. Not that you remember this incarnation particularly, but you know, it takes a lot of deep meditation to be able to do that. And then what's the point really anyway? Most people that try to do that always come back and say, oh, I was Tutankhamun or Nefertiti or somebody important. No one ever comes back as a shoe salesman. You know, it's so funny. I had a guy on here the other day that told me he was Ramana Maharshi in his past life, you know, and I know, right? Did you see that? I made some dark joke about how's your arm because he got cancer through his arm or something, and man, he went off. I don't know if he unfriended me or not, but I was Ramana Maharshi in my last life. How dare you be so sacrilegious or something? He said. It's like, I don't even know where to begin with that. You know, like what do you do with that? It's just like you got to laugh, don't you? You got to. It's like I am sacrilegious. I'm all of it. I'm religious, sacrilegious. I'm the whole spectrum of whatever that is. Yeah. All right, Anna, what's going on with you? You got a lot going on there. Let's dig in. You want to dig in?
Yeah, I got all sorts of stuff going on.
Well, you only got one thing going on, really.
Yeah. Well, I tried to restart doing the lessons, and that's not going well. I got up to lesson 30 and I just couldn't keep going. So I just restarted again. I went through all the lessons. You know, I ended in January and I haven't been able to.
Have you done the whole workbook?
Yeah.
Well, why are you doing it again? You weren't happy with it or something?
I don't know. I feel like I had a better understanding now and I wanted to do it one more time, but it seems
you can't get into it.
All
right, don't worry about it then. Don't worry about it. Your spirit knows exactly what you need. If you can't get into it, you can't get into it. There's no, you know, if you were meant to get into it, you'd have the energy for it. You just find yourself doing it.
Yeah, no, I just can't. I can't do it.
All right, read the teacher's manual.
Okay.
Because you've done the workbook and now you need to be about being the teacher. Because like as you teach, you hear yourself teach and you hear what you need to learn and all that sort of stuff. All right. Yeah. Read the teacher's manual. It's pretty simple. It's just questions and answers and stuff like that. Read the teacher's manual. And then are you in a group thing where you are?
No, we were doing a group thing probably about a year and a half ago here at my house. But that situation kind of changed, but I'm open to doing it again.
Well, just see what comes up. Ask within. Ask for guidance.
Yeah.
What would you have me do, Lord? Where would you have me go? All that sort of thing. Because it's like you got to start giving this away, because it'll just turn in on itself if you don't.
Okay.
There's no point being the eternal student of A Course in Miracles. You're a student of life. Course in Miracles is just part of a small part of a curriculum that has a universal scope. So
yeah,
there's nothing beyond that workbook. Once you finish those lessons, there's no other book that's going to make any sense to you. No point reading it and everything, because it's like, if you really hear what that lesson says, it says you're free.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do? Read another book to tell you that you're free? Read another book written by someone else who's read A Course in Miracles that's going to say you should read A Course in Miracles, and you'd be like, well, I'm right back at square one because I've already done that. And what did it tell you? I'm free. So what are you worried about?
Yeah.
But it's like, you can hear it, or I can tell you that you're free, but you're only going to hear it to whatever willingness you're prepared to let go of your world of being not free in. You know what I mean? If you still have an attachment, if you still have desires, wants, needs, and all of those sorts of things in the world, other than to serve your greatest good, right? Primarily because you would be fearful of how that's going to look, right? If you still have a thing with that, then you're going to have to go through the undoing of it. Either that, or go back out into the world and see if there is something there you really want. Bang your head against the wall a few times and be like, oh no, I see where this goes. Just because you do the workbook and do the lessons doesn't mean that automatically you've given everything up and let go of it all. It just means now that you've got a better perspective through which to look at that at. You've got tools, you've got forgiveness, you've got companions, you've got all these sorts of things that help you. And now it's really time to just be about it. Like, how long do you want to read the bloody course for? Really? Sorry, Jesus.
Yeah.
Put it down. Read the teacher's manual. Or something just bit me. Welcome to Australia. Some bug. But don't worry about, learn to tune into your own flow. Right? It's like, if you're having trouble, you pick up the workbook and you just can't get into it, and you try to tell yourself, I'll start again next week, whatever, and it's just not happening. Just let it be just not happening. Don't try to force anything. Don't try to give yourself an agenda, even if you think it is a spiritual agenda. Right? Listen within. Do I really want to do these lessons? It doesn't seem like I want to do these lessons.
Yeah.
I tell myself to do them, but I don't seem to have the energy for it. Right? Put your energy into what you do have energy for. But this time, do it from a singular point of love. Right? Now, whatever you do have energy for, it's going to lead you into confrontation, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to lead you into those places in your life, because what it is, it's just your script. It's just your timeline. So whatever's in your script, and you'll be saying, well, I think I'd like to take up archery, or I'd like to write music, or I'd like whatever. Doesn't matter. Get on with your life, and then whatever comes along in your life that sort of activates you, put your finger on your nose and use what it is you've learned in the course to deal with it. Right?
Yeah.
If stuff comes along, it doesn't mean you got to go restart the workbook and do it all again. It's like, hang on a minute. Let me pick up one of those lessons, maybe. Like for me, it's always lesson 10. Let me do lesson 10, bring my mind to a point of stillness so I can actually look at this situation I find myself in, right? And see what it is that I've actually chosen for here, right? Because if it's not peace, if it's not bringing me any peace, it's not that the situation isn't offering it, but the situation is either a lesson or a blessing, right? I've chosen to see it the wrong way. That's all it's ever going to be. I can only see through the eyes of love or the eyes of fear.
Yeah.
And when you step away from the workbook, for most people, the workbook becomes this kind of safety blanket, you know, like Linus on Peanuts, and he carries his blanket with him everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. For a lot of people in the course community, especially, their book becomes their safety blanket. The first sign of trouble, and they're straight back into it. Oh, read. That's good. Use the book, do whatever you need to do, but apply the principle of the book, which is to forgive. Right? Trying to offset your fear and your pain and your suffering and your worries and concerns with a concept in the book. Oh, there is no world. That's nothing. That's just spiritual denial, right? It's bypassing, I think, is the word everybody uses nowadays. Spiritual bypassing. And do the work, actually. Apply the forgiveness. I need to forgive myself for thinking there's something other than God at work here in this situation, or my best interests at work in this situation. And I let it go. Right. But you'll know if you truly let it go, because the situation will change. The way you see it and think about it will change. If it doesn't change, you haven't truly let it go. And you got to remember, you've chosen to see through the eyes of fear deliberately. It serves the old master, the old script. It's like, really? I still want that? Geez, man, this stuff's sticky and crazy. It's like, but yes, you still want it, right? It's like you find little pockets of it every so often. You know, be going along, everything's groovy, and then bam, you get blown out of the water. And it's like, really? I still want guilt? Yeah. Really? You know, I still want littleness instead of magnitude? Really? I've read this whole course book. It seems reasonable. I've told myself that my old perspective is ridiculous compared to Jesus's perspective of me. I've said that's what I want, but I've still got this stuff, right? It's like, that's okay. It's just residue of the old script, right? It doesn't mean that you've chosen for it actively. It's just leftovers, right? It's one of those cycles that takes a long time to come around. Some of them come around on a weekly basis, a daily basis. Some come every decade. Some come every 25 years, you know. You never know what it is, when it's going to show up or nothing, but you just keep doing the work. That's all you got to do. You got to stop, breathe, step back, look at it honestly and own it. It's like, all right, I've chosen this somewhere before time began. I chose a script of separation. This is a fracturedism or a fracture or a facet of it. It's like, now let me, you know, you missed a bit of sand on your pyramid. You got to get your little broom and climb all the way back up. Oh, I see where the sand is. It's there. The tourists are coming tomorrow. They want the pyramid sparkling clean. Oh. Who the hell built those things anyway? It's like, really? It wasn't people. That's such a ridiculous notion.
Yeah.
Arcturians.
I think Arcturians. I'm going to ask them about it. Actually, been meaning to talk to them for a long time now, but I've got the interstellar thing here. I'm just going to.
I got tinfoil.
Tinfoil will do the same thing. That's exactly the same thing. All right. So, what else, Anna? Come on, that's pretty juicy.
Yeah, I just seem to have the same cycle of drama coming up between me and my mom and my brother. We've had all these issues with, or my brother's been like an alcoholic and using drugs for like 15 years now. And he moves in and out of my mom's house. And now, you know, I have 2 kids, 12 and 4.5. So there's times where I don't let them go over there, especially when he lives there. And it turns into this big family drama all the time. So just trying to work through that. So neither one of them is really talking to me because I don't let the kids go over.
There's some juicy bits. Look at that. And rightly so. They're your kids and you're a responsible mother. You don't want them in that environment. Why would you? Right. So, but look at all the emotionality it's bringing up for you. You know, don't waste that. Use it for forgiveness, right? You got to use it. You ready? Breathe. It's just a dream. This is all your dream, right? You wouldn't react to it at all if you knew that it actually was a dream. But because you've given it a value, this is my mother, this is my brother, this is my kids, this is that and the other. It's always going to be that those closest to you are going to be your best teachers. They're going to pack the biggest punch. And you got to be the one that can take it. Right? You got to own that punch because you're the one that's put it out there in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like my Irish friend, Gareth, right? He's 47, 48. He's been here 10, 12 years in Australia. He's finally going back to Ireland. And his mother wants him to meet this girl because mothers always want their boys to get married, right? And in Ireland, everybody gets married because it's cold. What else do you do? And I said, are you looking forward to meeting this girl? And he goes, oh, yeah, she's a fine girl. She can take a punch. That's the qualification. But you got to be willing to take the punch, right? It's like you're going to look at that situation again and again and again, like you just said. It's like, all right, it keeps affecting me. I keep buying into the drama. I keep giving it a value and getting the result of it, which is look where you're at. You're sitting there with tears in your eyes. But it's like, all right, I'm going to own it now. I've been projecting that part out there. I've been asking that person to play that part, that person to play that part, that person to play that part. So I can have an experience of thinking I'm somehow separate from it and get the results of that. But you're not separate from it. It's going on in your own mind. Right? That's where you need to deal with it. It's not out there, your brother and your mother and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's going on here.
Yeah.
Right? If you had to solve the problems of your world out there, you'd be running around like a blue-ass fly forever trying to get people to just carry on how you want them to carry on. You know, you can't do that. You can only bring your mind to peace and represent that in a situation that seems to deny it and wait for that cycle to come around again. And you'll see how honestly you healed your own mind by your reaction to it the next time. Right? Now, one of the tough things, there's always a cause and effect with all this stuff, right? So you're the cause and the effect of your errant thinking is the upset that you're experiencing now, right? Reflected off a situation. It doesn't matter what the situation is, but there's always an action. There's always a doing of stuff, right? So heal your own mind first, and then you'll see how to proceed in the particulars of the situation. So my uncle, who's now just recently left the domain, was an alcoholic and always creating drama, always ran at his mother's place, borrowing money, even when he was in his 50s and 50, 55, you know, borrowing money, and he'd be straight down the pub, Mum, I need money to pay my electricity bill, blah, blah, blah. And because Grandma was kind of wealthy, she would give him the money and he'd go straight to the pub and get drunk. Next thing you know, she'd get a phone call from the police. We've got him in the lockup, come and bail him out. And then he'd have to go to court again and again and again. Never had a license, used to have to get taxis and whatever. One day he drove his boss's car and drove it through the side of somebody's house drunk didn't even know that he'd driven through the side of the house and like head injury, the whole thing, passed out behind the wheel. So ended up in hospital, handcuffed to the bed, you know, and had to go to AA, right? The judge made him go to Alcoholics Anonymous and do the 12-step program. And his sponsor, you can arrange, I don't know if you still can, but you used to be able to arrange for your sponsor to be almost like a parole officer. Your sponsor would, if you were court ordered to rehab, they would check you in. If you failed to check in, your option was go to rehab or go to jail, right? If you failed to check in, then the police would come and arrest you again. You go straight to jail. You didn't get a second chance, right? AA was your second chance. But one of the things that they told my grandmother was to keep some AA literature at her house. And if he turned up, don't give him anything except the AA literature. She wasn't to give him any money. She wasn't to offer him a room for the night, nothing. Take this and go. That was and that was Al-Anon, right? Which is the support group for family and friends of alcoholics, drug addicts, whatever. I don't know what it is today. I have a funny feeling that the 12-step program has kind of devolved into this new age kind of self-help bullshit. It's not as punchy, but my sponsor, when I was at AA, my sponsor, he was tough as nails. He wouldn't take any shit, right? He wouldn't let me get away with anything. As soon as he saw me stepping out of line from the 12 steps or the 12 traditions, he'd pull me up straight away and like really uncompromising. And I was actually very grateful for that. You know, there was a lot of other people there that would sort of sit around and go, well, you know, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, blah, 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 because it's helpful to do this, that, and the other. But Willem used to be like, what are you, a bloody idiot? He'd be right in my face and he'd be like yelling at me and like, I'd be like, wah! You know, like, but he was a hardcore, he was a great sponsor. I really, you know, maybe they just applied him to me because I needed that, but it's the same thing. But you've got to heal your own mind first, right? And then you'll see clearly how to proceed with everything else. Okay. I mean, she's your mother. You need to, you know, like there would be a point where you would actually sit down with her and say, hey, look, this is not okay. This situation's out of control, whatever. And you have to make that declaration. It's the same as making any declaration. I mean, you don't have to, not because I say so, but you know, with whatever guidance you get, there's going to be a confrontation. There always is. Right?
There always is.
There always is. There always is confrontation. And if you're fearful of making it, you're not going to get beyond it to see what comes afterwards. Right? But literally when you make those confrontations and, you know, like you're only making it with yourself really, with the fear that's going on in your own mind, right? When you make that confrontation, it's a declaration of your certainty. You've got to be certain about it in here and in here, in your heart and mind. Otherwise, if you're wishy-washy and you put it out there, it's just going to sidestep around and come back in another way, right? It's like when Jesus says to the devil, you know, to the demon that was in the boy that was turning him into a crazy nutter, and he said, get out of him, and he put him into the pigs, right? It's like he didn't say please. He didn't say please. He's, get out. That was it. End of story. There's no alternative. You don't get a chance. It's done. That's it. Right? Now, that's it with everything. It's either yes or no, hot or cold, black or white. There's no lukewarm in this, Anna. Right? You don't have to feel guilty about whatever, or you don't have to feel like a bad mother or whatever. I don't know what story's running in your head, but you don't have to feel that. Right? You work for Jesus. That's your job. Step up to it.
Okay.
You know? You're going to leave your mother, you're going to leave your brother, you're going to leave everything. You're going to just go, nah, done. Right? whatever that is. You got to pull the whole rug out from under that situation, let the pieces fall where they may. And if they come back to you, that's good. If they don't, so be it. Because your only other option is to just keep going around and around and around. You got to have the courage to step up and like heal it here first. All right.
Gotcha.
You got to make that decision, not me. You could sit there for all I know going, oh, I don't think I'm going to do that, Dave.
No, I do.
Right, exactly. You know, but otherwise nothing's going to change. You know, you have to be completely uncompromising. Teacher of God, accept no compromise where death plays a part. All right. And it'll be fun, really. It'll come to you, right? It'll come to you. Remember, let your words reflect mercy. It doesn't have to be a bloody redneck shouting match, you know. It doesn't have to be some, we call it bogans here. Do you call it bogans over there? Bogans are sort of like, bogans are like city dwelling rednecks. Rednecks are country guys, you know, but like bogans are like the city version of a country guy. So,
Okay.
they always got a cigarette hanging out of their mouth and a pack of smokes tucked up in their sleeve and wearing jeans and a black T-shirt, those sort of guys, you know, always got cars and doing donuts and, you know, you guys have that there?
No.
It's a big thing here. You know, it's a big thing here, bogans.
It sounds like
everyone,
a 1950s movie or something, right?
Yeah.
Like Grease. Grease.
Yeah. It's a lot like that. Flannelette shirts and everybody dragging their cars at midnight down at the end of the wharf, you know, things like that. So, yeah.
Go Grease Lightning, go Grease Lightning.
Go Grease Lightning.
Australia is awesome.
Yeah, we get on. We go all right. So, good. Healing is always shared, but you got to heal it in you first, Anna. Right? You got to heal it to the point where you can make that declaration. Right? And for that, you need to listen. You need to listen to your spirit within. You need to sit quietly and ask for help and ask how that ought to look and what you ought to do and all of the rest of it. I can sort of give you the general gist of the matter, but you know, the particulars have got to come from within you. It's your association.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
No problem. We'll follow up with this one. You know.
We'll have to.
Hey man, I've had to make quite a few confrontations in my years, you know, like just things in there. I had to confront this guy once that used to come to session in Tilba. And I used to think, why is nothing changing for this guy? You know, because some people will want to sit around the kitchen table and tell you all their stuff, right? So it's kind of easy to keep track of what they're going through and where they're at. And you can feel them emotionally, you know, you can feel them energetically, what's going on. And some people just sort of keep in the background like a wallflower and they don't want to say nothing and they just hang around. And I used to think, why is this guy always hanging around? He doesn't seem to be changing, like there's nothing going on. And then it dawned on me, he was hanging around because he was keen on the girl that owned the house where we were doing the thing, right? I don't know, did I tell you this story already? No. He was keen on her, right? He was a big country, right? He was like 7 foot tall. I'm 6 foot something. He's 7 foot tall. He's got hands like half as big as mine, like dinner plates. They're massive. He could crush my head like that. And I knew I had to make a confrontation with him, but I thought I'll go and see Sue and just double check with her if my perceptions or my understanding of the situation is accurate. I might be just making shit up, you know, because like that's entirely possible. So I went and saw Sue and she told me, oh yeah, he's always been kind of fond on me and he's hanging around. And I said, well, that's not the purpose of these sessions. You know, that's not the purpose of this thing. Him thinking that it's okay for him to just keep turning up here because it gets him close to you. So I had to confront him in session, but I thought, this is a big redneck country boy here. I don't want anybody get in his face and then have it go backwards on me. You know, like I need to let my words reflect mercy and everything else. So I sat in prayer. I think we had a session the next day coming and he was at every one, you know, and we sat in prayer and I asked the Holy Spirit. I said, Holy Spirit, I've got to make a confrontation here. Sue feels uncomfortable because he's always at the thing. It's not energetically, nothing's happening for him. He's holding a space that somebody else could enter into and the whole thing. And plus I don't want him to beat me to a pulp, you know, like with what was going on. I just put it all out there, you know, like I just talked to God about everything, all my concerns about the situation. And because like I was the facilitator, I had to, it was up to me, you know, and so the next day we're doing the session and I can't remember how it came about, but I was just, you know, how doing a round robin, just checking in on everybody. And I started talking to him about what was going on for him and everything else like that. And it came out actually really gently. I'm usually about as gentle as a brick dropping on your toe, some people tell me, but, you know, it came out really gently. And I said to him, look, man, this is a place that has a specific purpose. I said, you know, like you're making Sue feel uncomfortable and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I'm guessing that you have feelings for her and that you wouldn't want her to be upset in a, you know, thing. Anyway, it just came out nicely and whatever. And he sort of shook his head and nodded and he's like, you know what, you're right. He looked at me and he admitted what I told him and he said, that's why I am here. And the whole thing, he never came again. He never came to the sessions again, which in one sense, I kind of got a little bit upset about because I actually really liked the guy. He had a really nice energy, like just big, gentle giant and like a really nice guy generally. But I knew that I had to keep the integrity of the group together, you know, because I'm facilitating it and because it's metaphysics and there's a potential for misunderstanding in a vast diorama of ways. It's up to me to do whatever I can as my brother's keeper to try and make sure that it's understood what the purpose of the group is so that people don't get too sidetracked about it. You know, otherwise it just devolves into some kind of tea and biscuits, you know. And I've been to plenty of spiritual meetings that are basically, that's all they're there for. People get together and talk tarot cards and crystals and things. And then now, whew, let's have a cup of tea. And that's where it goes. It's like nobody gets activated, nothing changes. It's just dead energy going around and around. So you have to make those confrontations to sort of dispel all that dead energy and stay in the vibration that's the closest one or the one that you have the greatest integrity with that Jesus is actually offering, which is salvation from temporal association. Right? It's giving up the world, literally. Right? And everything's going to be your opportunity to do that. You're a worker in the vineyard and you're being asked now to trim away some dead wood. If it was me, you know, cut away the branches, the dead branch. What's that parable? Oh man, the tree that doesn't produce fruit. I'll have to look it up. I'm a bit rusty on the Bible. You know the one. Tina knows it. She just lit up like a tree that does produce fruit. Oh yeah. That's not me. I'm producing fruit. Right? But all your relationships have to produce fruit. Otherwise, cut them away. All right? Dust off your sandals and move on. A prophet is never welcome in their own home. So you got all of this stuff kind of against you. Emotionally, you don't really want to dust off your shoes and move on because it's your family. But you have to see where it is that the importance and the relevance of your actual goal now with Jesus is in that. You know, it's like when John came, I think it was, or Matthew came to Jesus towards the end there and said, oh, your mother is outside, wants to see you, you know, and Jesus says, everyone is my mother. In his own mind, he'd cast away the idea of a specific mother, right? And he said, this is my mother, these are my brothers, whatever, whoever I'm with, is like the whole thing. That's where you got to be in your own mind with this whole thing, because that's actually how it is, right? It's like I couldn't disown my actual earthly mother if I wanted to, even if she was the biggest cowpoke on the planet, I couldn't, you know, but I could be willing to. If it was for the greater good, I could sit there and go, all right, I'm willing to, but I have no clue how to do that. It's my mum, you know. She's my dear old sainted mother, and she's looked after me since the day I was born. And it's like, I can say yes to that, Jesus, but you're going to have to give me a miracle there, right? Luckily, you're entitled to miracles, right? So you got your mother and your brother, and it's like you're trying to work it out in your head, but forgetting about the miracle, right? It's like, Jesus, I need this situation. I need a miracle. The whole thing, I'm willing to step up. I'm willing to put the big girl pants on, and whatever it takes and whatever happens, right? It's got to be your interest in the situation has to be only that it comes around somehow to a point of being resolved in a peaceful way. Okay. Let those who think of you think of peace. Let your words reflect mercy, and whatever. Even if they shut the door in your face, it doesn't matter, right? You'll know that you did what you did representing Jesus, and then they're going to be sitting there having to process it with that as well. And it's like, man, they can't hold a grievance forever. I guarantee you. They're your kin. At some point, they've got to look at it and go, oh, all right, this is ridiculous. But it's not up to you to decide when that is. You know, after my awakening, I went to all my family. I went to everyone I know, and I had Course in Miracles books for everybody. I just figured everyone would automatically want to read it and get into it and, you know, whatever. And my mum says, no, darling, we're not going to be doing that. We're not doing that. And I'm like, Mum, this is incredible stuff. Just read it. Have a read of it. Like 10 pages. Read 10 pages. No, we're not doing that. That's not for us. And it's like, you haven't even read it. How do you know? But I was so excited at what I'd found. You know, why don't they want to know? Like, there was this whole thing. And so I had to let it go. I had to let them go. You know, I had to let them go. And Jesus said, like, I'll send those to you who you need and all that sort of thing. So I knew, well, it's not my own family. So we'll just see who it is. It's not my immediate family. But like, those are some tough calls. You know, this is a journey into fear, and you got to make the big decisions. You got to take the tough decisions, and it's not always the ones that you really wish that you had to make at all. But yet, if you don't make them, you know, nothing changes. And in fact, it just gets worse. So we'll be back. Tina, what's going on with you?
Every other day. You were talking about the things coming around like 2 years or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's like every 2 days. I had a big chunk like of
that's good.
Yeah, I could identify like and really trying to stay abstract with it. It's just not peace. But it has a certain tone to it. And it was really strong, so strong, and it was coming up. And this was a few days ago. And I just it was, well, it doesn't matter when. I was just really, really prayerful, but as I was being prayerful about it and just sitting with it, not trying to adjust and really letting it go. It felt like it was the tip of an iceberg, and I really wanted to just allow the whole thing. It was really painful, but it's the same thing that goes on all the time. So I could see it as this thing, this just like probably my thing, like my certain thing that it has to be healed. So I just let it be just super, super painful. And I was watching my mind, And it was there, the story was keeping that feeling in place. You know what I mean? And I was trying to do my forgiveness, and but I realized what I was doing was making the error real and then trying to let it go.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at it, I was like, okay, well, this is making the error real. And then I saw, like, it was like a little split in my mind, like this little slice of, this is how it looks in my mind, little slice in my mind where it was like, I don't want to let this go. Like, I don't want this story to not be true. I really want this story to be true. So I was not willing. So all I could do was be with the fact that I was really not willing. Like, I so desperately wanted this flavor that seems to really trigger me to believe that the separation happened. Oh, it was so crazy. But then to see that, but then there was something that had happened, like I'd been sort of going through with this whole relationship with God, and like not trusting God. And what was the other part of it? Doesn't matter. This whole thing with my relationship with God, and feeling like I had nowhere to go with this. Like, I don't even trust you. So what am I supposed to do? Like, I see that I don't want to let this go, and I don't trust you. I don't think, I don't think you're here for me. So it's like I had nowhere to go. So all I could do was just be in it. And I just was being with it all night long and just really praying just for the miracle, because it was just such a mess in my mind. It was just such a mess. It felt like it was so wound up, like I don't even have any place to go. So, but then the next day it felt like just miraculously, like there was some space, and I felt very light and very just happy and joyful, and the whole thing seemed to have been resolved without me understanding. And I didn't want to conceptualize. I didn't want to understand. It just seemed like it was cool. And then yesterday, I was doing the detox, right? And I couldn't do anything all day long except sit up. I couldn't really sleep. I had to be still, felt like a setup, because I had to just be still. I couldn't distract myself with doing your videos, because I swear to God, like the videos, 2 days, they were processing for 2 days. So I couldn't even do anything. All I could do was be there. And my mind, didn't feel like it was my mind, but all of a sudden I just like that feeling came over again with no cause. Just that feeling dropped in. And I was like, I thought I just did this a couple of days ago. But it was like, I don't believe God. I don't trust God. I don't, like, who is this God? Why would I? And this whole feeling was all day long. And then it hit me. And I didn't want to distract myself either with like, and there was a strong temptation because I couldn't do anything, but I didn't want to like go to the course and like read the course, because I felt like I was just trying to make myself feel better. And I was like, if this just happened 2 days ago, I really want to get to this. I just really want to feel all of this and just pray. And that's all I did was pray and do my lesson yesterday. And then in the lesson, at the end of the night, after all day long of me just like, I don't like, where am I supposed to go? I don't even trust you. And there's no, I'm just believing this. And then it just hit me that I'm really only seeing what I'm believing. And it has to be the reversal of that. Like I'm saying that I don't believe God, I don't trust God, because that's not the right mind. You know what I mean? It's like the ego mind. And I'm sitting there, I'm really like listening to this mind like it's the truth. Almost like that scene in Revolver. Do you know, in the elevator?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the whole movie is like, it's just set up so perfectly. The whole movie.
Oh, it's a movie?
Yeah, there's a movie, and the whole movie, the actor doesn't really say many words, but you hear his voice, and it's like that's his mind. And so you make the association as a viewer that that's always him. You know what I mean? You hear his voice, that's always him. But it's all about deconstructing the ego. Then there's a scene in the elevator where he's learned all of these things. He's learned forgiveness, basically. And he's in the elevator and he's having to face something. And you hear all of this in his mind, and you see him being really still. And that's not unusual. The whole movie's been that way. He's very still, and his mind is doing this thing, da 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 da. And then all of a sudden, he opens his eyes and he goes, "I see you." And he looks over, and there's like another one, like it's him, but it's like acting a fool and it's saying all this stuff, and it's like he just caught like the ego. And that's what it felt like yesterday. Like all of a sudden, like there was a moment where it was like, that's not my mind. I've been believing this mind all day long. That's not my mind. And it was like, I was like, I see you. So anyway.
It's the invisible friend.
Yeah, but it speaks in my voice. But all day long, it had me like, you got nowhere to go. You got nowhere to go. Like you can't trust God.
Right.
You're asking God to get you out of this. So I don't know. I'm not really trying to figure it out. I'm just really letting it, trying to just be with it. Because you said 2 years. I'm like, wow, every 2 days is this gonna come up? I think it's done, and then a day later it's got me.
That thing you said you got nowhere to go, that's the place you want to be.
Yeah,
stay in that place where, even though that's your ego telling you that, and that's like you're working out. I mean, the ego can understand things from a reasonable perspective, right? The whole spiritual trip is a trap for the ego. The ego loves the idea of being spiritual, right? Loves it. Spiritual is peace, spiritual is love, and I want love because love validates me, anything that validates you. But the ego doesn't realize that the process is to deny it, right? So the ego is constantly tricked into making decisions that deny its validity in you. So you're listening to it, working it out, because all those thoughts in your head are ego thoughts. You get to a point where you go, I've got nowhere to go with this, right? Now, choose again.
Yeah.
Right? Your idea of where you can go with it, this way or that way, it's like, what about going up?
Mm-hmm.
I need the miracle. I'm going to sit here. I need a miracle, and I'm going to let something happen, right? And you put it in the circle. You hold it in your circle. We do put a golden circle there. Whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you breathe, and you just like all that energy, like that iceberg you said, all that energy. Let it come up. You probably won't get the whole iceberg, but it's like
sitting there.
You will if you right. Jesus went in the desert, 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. Like that's tough call.
Yeah.
You know, but he also saw he's got nowhere to go with it. What can I do about this? I can't do a goddamn thing. It just keeps coming up. It's in my face. You know, same exact thing with Anna. It's like, it's in my face. What can I do with it? I got nowhere to go with it. I need a miracle. I need it healed in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I can see clearly. I can't see anything whilst I'm still trying to ping pong it around in my head and look at my options. I don't want any of my options. My options are all fucked up. You know, what's the point in listening to my options? Because it's my options that have got me into this pickle in the first place.
Oh my God, it had me so like spinning.
Right.
And so and it was like so perfect because I couldn't do anything. Like I was detoxing and I couldn't move. And I couldn't just, there was no, you gave us the movies to do, and I just didn't feel like doing those movies. Like I had nothing to do except just be there in that. And just,
I got another movie for you before I forget. Archive.
Archive?
Yep. It's a movie. It's on it's on our Netflix now, but it's on Netflix. Archive. Definitely watch it. It's about a guy that makes robots. It's so good.
Okay.
It's not about the robots.
Okay.
He tries to build a right.
No, I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen it. But have you seen Moon?
Have I seen what?
Moon.
Moon? No, I don't think so.
Okay, but I'm gonna.
I don't have Netflix at the moment anyway. So Rosie's payment didn't go through for it. So she pays for my Netflix and I pay for her phone. So
she's got the better end of that stick.
she has the better end of that deal. She does.
My girl, my girl. Yeah, you pay for my phone. I'm gonna pay this $14.
That phone is like $60 a month, and the Netflix is $6 a month to have me on
Yeah,
there. So.
yeah.
Anywho, doesn't matter. There's no lack. Jesus pays the bills. That's what I always say.
There you go.
Be miracle minded for everything. Yeah, so you got to get to the place where you got nowhere to go with it, you know, and like as painful as that is, that's the place where your prayer will be honest.
It was so crazy. I just would not let it. I mean, it was just really interesting to see how insistent I was that I did not want to let it go. Like I did not. But then when I
just remember that you have a problem because you want a problem.
Exactly, and that was it. That was it. I could see, like, I want this. I want this situation to stay. When I had that little, it was like that little split in my mind, and I could see, like, it felt like a little slice of a pie where it was like, you can't go anywhere because you want this. You want this. You will not let it go. And to see that, I mean, I've heard that, but I was like, I totally saw my mind going, okay, whatever. No. Full stop.
That's right. No. I keep buying into this drama because I want to keep buying into this drama.
Exactly. No.
It's not the drama that needs healing. It's my mind that wants to keep buying into it and manifesting
the problem. Exactly. Because it just anyway, yeah, it was very it was helpful, I guess, to notice it, but it didn't, you know, I mean, the miracle, I need a miracle, because noticing it was one thing.
Ted used to say, if you stop training doctors, people would stop getting sick. It's true.
I concur.
Right, exactly. Stop training doctors and people will stop getting sick. It's like, a doctor, what's that? Doctor fixes you when you're sick. Oh, cool. Let me get sick so I can go and see what the doctor does.
Yep.
I want to visit the doctor.
It's in place first. Yep.
Right. And you get sucked in when you're a little kid. You go along and you get your jab and they give you a lollipop and it's like, that wasn't so bad. I saw that happen and then I got this. I can do that. I've had worse than that in the sandpit. And I didn't even get a lollipop when I fell over in the sandpit. You get conned into everything, and then you just take it on board as like, I like that. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And hey, a lot of people make a whole life out of sickness. You know, it validates everything and whatever. So.
And then that question is always asked. I was looking at that Satsang, because the one that I missed. And that question gets asked, like, why would I do this? Like Anthea was asking, well, why would I do this? And I was like, it's right there. It's right there. That's how strongly I want to be separate. I want to believe that the separation happened. That's just how much I want to be convinced of it, that I want to be miserable. I want to be miserable because then I am over here, that's over there, the story is here, and I get to be right, God. I get to be right. I get to be right. It happened.
Yep, that's it.
You know what I mean? It was like, I get to be right. And I just was like a big challenge. Yeah, like Cray Cray. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. But that's what we're here for. We're uncovering our cray cray and we're looking at it and we go, oh my God, I'm crazy. I actually want this. I love the drama.
Oh, in my head, I was sick. My head hurt. I was crying. It was a mess. Will not give it up. Nope.
No. That's what I tell you. You know, it's like every time when I talk to you about prayer, I'm saying all your prayers are lies. You're asking for a miracle. No, you're not. You're not really asking for a miracle. You need to ask for a miracle to even want a miracle.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, Father, here I am praying. It's like I probably don't even mean it.
Because I'm scared of you and I don't trust you. When you give me all this love, like that experience I had a few weeks ago, and I'm getting all this love from you, I don't want it because I don't trust you. And yet I'm gonna pray to you. It's just a whole mess. I need a miracle. I just need a miracle.
It is a whole mess. You get to the point and you realize you don't have a choice anyway. So what's the, you know, you just surrender.
Thank you, Father.
You don't have a choice. You're free whether you want to be or not. It's only me that doesn't want to accept it. So
Yeah.
what do you mean I'm free?
All these layers.
If I'm free, that means I can be miserable about it too, right? Yep.
Damn it.
You're free to be miserable. But wouldn't you rather just be happy, like honestly?
I'd rather be right.
That's right. I want to be right. I don't want to be happy. I want to be right.
Exactly. I think I'll be happy if I'm right.
You can be right about being happy, but you can't.
I want to be both. Not really. I just want to be right. More important. Crazy.
Right.
Anyway, that's what the last couple of days are. So anyway, I guess I look forward to see what happens the day after tomorrow.
We'll see. Anna's looking forward to it as well now. She's got some good swimming going on there.
Yeah.
Don't waste your pain, Anna. Don't waste your pain.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it.
Good. You got to see how crazy you are first and do the healing.
Yeah, I think I know how crazy I am.
Right.
I'm at that point too where I can see that I want it, you know. Yep.
Good. There we go. Ready? Join together, you guys. One's down there and one's up here on my screen. Ding. It's like, it's a collaborative venture. I'm not separate from you guys. All the dramas that ever happened to me, it's like, I want them to happen. I want them. They're part of a script that I wrote because I wanted that script. And now they're showing up. I'm telling myself I want Jesus's story now, blah, 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 but it doesn't mean that I still don't want the other one as well. I want my cake and I want to eat it too, and the whole thing. It's like, well, we've chosen now, you got to let go of one to get the other. What's it going to be? You know, and you'll go around and you'll come up against it a few times more until you decide. And Jesus will just keep saying, well, what's it going to be? Choose again, choose again, choose again. It's like, all right, I've got to let it go. Because don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. I do so have a choice. Watch me. Watch me be miserable again next week on the same time, on the same Zoom channel. Well, anything else? We're all good. I think that's enough to deal with. So drink plenty of water. Arnie, you're not drinking enough water. Drink plenty of water. Tina, don't do any detoxes. You don't need detoxes. Trust me.
I must have needed it because it happened.
Right. Ready?
Just now on.
The last useless idea of bodily whatever it is. Look, you ready? The mind does not need to detox. It just needs a moment of forgiveness. That's it.
There wasn't any attachment to it. I was really just hit me all of a sudden. It was really like not even planned. It was like, I'm gonna do it today.
Go eat a bag of prunes. That'll be the best detox you ever had. It's better
after
than
a parfait. Nah.
I have a friend that goes once every 8 weeks for that colonic thing. It's just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So that can't be good for you. Gets flushed out as if there's something wrong with, you know. What is that? And she's happy to sit and tell me about all the little bugs and things you can see because they put it all in a jar for you at the end.
When I had my surgery too, they were like, do you want it? I was like, no, like that's why we had the surgery. I don't want that. No.
What was your surgery? What did you have?
I told you I had a 100-pound tumor.
Oh yeah, the tumor. That's
well, it was actually like
somebody else
30 pounds, 70 pounds of water. It was crazy. It was crazy.
I had someone else with the same thing the other day telling me the same story.
There you go.
Yeah, well, yep. Give it a name. I'm going to call my tumor Betty.
Got a doctor. Wouldn't have it if there were no doctors.
That's right, bloody doctors.
Which came first, the tumor or the doc? So.
There were no doctors, people had stopped getting sick. All right, I love you guys. I'm out of here.
Peace.
Going to have a shower and
right on. I'm gonna shut her
Peace.
down.
All right. Ciao.
Anna.
Bye.
I love you.
Love you.